It's one of those Purple Bricks real estate agents.
I thought they were just online.
No. Well, they're proper real estate agents. They're real people. Oh, they only charge a fixed fee.
What, no commission?
No commission. Well, did you not use them to sell your old place?
Ah, commisery. The misery you feel when you spend thousands on commission but got nothing more for your money. Save yourself from commisery at purplebricks.com.au.
Commisery, misery, dissonance, it's all the same thing. It's an unpleasant emotion when we find we've acted in a way that goes against our attitudes. That's the focus of cognitive dissonance theory. We try to rid ourselves of this dissonance by doing one of three things. We could do the logical thing of changing our behaviour and bringing it back into line with our attitude. Sometimes that change in behaviour isn't possible because the behaviour is past, such as in the example of buying the car that you then realise was far more money than you should have spent, or paying for the estate agent fee. Sometimes we could change that behaviour, but it requires more effort, and so we're more likely to go for one of two other options. We're likely to rationalise our behaviour away, or we might change our attitude to fit in with the new behaviour. Freud said that rationalisation is a good reason, but not the right reason. What he means by that is that we're not logical and rational in our cognitive processing. But what we will desperately try to do is convince ourselves that we are by offering plausible sounding explanations. Sometimes this is called the law of hindsight, that after the event we try and offer an explanation that seems plausible. But it's just a rationalisation. We're going to look at applying this theory in a way that can lead to change in other people's behaviour. Before that, I want to drive home the importance of consistency. We like our world to be consistent, to be predictable. When you go to class, most people go and sit in the same seats. Their name isn't embossed in that seat, but we get great comfort from this predictability. We like friends who are predictable and consistent in their behaviour. People who are volatile and unpredictable in their behaviour, they often struggle to sustain friendships. We also like our world, our cognitive world, our internal world to be consistent. That our values and our thoughts and our beliefs, they hang together in a logical and consistent way. Now, one strategy that taps into the importance of this consistency is called the foot in the door technique. And a lot of research evidence has suggested that if you've agreed to a small request and then somebody makes a large request of you, you're more likely to agree to that larger request precisely because you've agreed already to the earlier request because of consistency. Friedman and Fraser made use of this in an interesting study. They knocked on residents' doors in a neighbourhood and they asked if they'd be willing to allow a large, fairly unsightly car safety sign to be erected in their front garden. Much more unattractive than this sign here. For some of the residents, before they asked this favour of them, they asked them if they'd be willing to sign a petition on the importance of road safety. Some, they just asked straight if they could put the sign up. There was a difference. There was a big difference in how many agreed in these two conditions. For those who were asked directly if the sign could be put in their garden, 17% agreed to this. 83% said no. Of those who were asked if they were willing to sign the petition on road safety, a very small request, and almost all of them agreed to this, and then the larger request was made, we find then that 55% agreed to this larger request. Why? Because of consistency. If you've made a decision that's consistent with your earlier cognition, your earlier decision, then it's a strategy for avoiding dissonance. We're going to look at some examples now of cognitive dissonance in the real world. When I was at school, about to leave school, I perhaps naively at 17, 18 years of age, had the attitude that I wanted to go to work and find job satisfaction. That was my attitude. In my sixth form, the school overlooked this factory, and I probably spent far too much time dawdling my time away looking at it, such that I didn't do that well first time round, and I ended up working in this factory, doing shift work, long hours, dull, monotonous work, fairly risky work too. I was thoroughly dissatisfied, and I felt a lot of dissonance, a lot of frustration because of that. I've got three choices. I can rationalise, I could change my attitudes, I could change my behaviour. After 3 years I did change my behaviour, and I did go to college. But that was tough. That was a tough decision to make. It was easier, actually. Certainly it kept me going for 3 years to rationalise. I said I was lucky to have a job. In the mid-80s there were 4 million people unemployed. I needed the money to pay for my rent. I needed it to pay for my car, my social life. So rationalising came easy. When I eventually left and went back to college, I would call in to the mill sometimes and see my co-workers, and often without prompting from me, the value of work came up, and many of them would say in one-on-one conversations that job satisfaction, it doesn't exist, it's an illusion. Maybe they change their attitude to fit in with their behaviour. Most of us have the attitude that our health is our wealth. But from time to time, people act in a way that runs counter to that health is your wealth attitude. Many people lead a sedentary lifestyle. They eat the wrong stuff, they don't exercise, they may drink, they may smoke. Now let's pick on our smokers. If the attitude is your health is your wealth but you're smoking, then you'll experience dissonance. We've got those three options: change attitude, rationalise, or change your behaviour. Quitting smoking is very difficult. That requires a significant amount of effort to change that behaviour. And that's why most smokers are very good at rationalising. And they rationalise by saying, you could get run down by a bus tomorrow. They have this kind of devil-may-care attitude to life. Or they may say, my granddad's smoked all his life and he's still going strong. They're kind of saying in that one that actually, maybe what I'm doing isn't that bad for my health. So you get this mix of changing attitudes or rationalising. Just to kind of maybe tilt my smokers in the audience to think about quitting, we have on the left here the lungs of somebody who died from lung cancer and somebody who died not from lung cancer. And you can see this on YouTube. If these are inflated almost instantly, because they've lost their elasticity, they go flat straight away. And smokers in the advanced stages of lung cancer are gasping for breath all the time. In our healthy lungs, what we find is that when they inflate more, there's more elasticity there, and they're slower to deflate. This is one you may have experienced. Most of us hold the attitude that's important to be honest. But sometimes you may have found yourself in a position where you're being dishonest. I had a friend who came over when I was living in England, and I took him to Oxford. I paid for lunch and I received too much change. Between you and me, £5 more change than I should have got. And I was suddenly thrown into this dilemma. I'm honest by nature, and whilst I hadn't been deliberately dishonest by doing nothing, I was default being dishonest. And that led to an awful lot of guilt. What should I do? Between you and me, I did nothing. But I was plagued with guilt. And so I rationalised. I tried to rationalise. And the kind of rationalising reasons I came out with, again, you might be able to think of one or two that I could use here. But I kind of thought, well, it's her fault. It wasn't my fault. I thought the lunch was expensive anyway. Maybe in the end that's that's a fair price to pay. It's part of a chain. You know, they're really well off. They're raking it in most of the time. Oxford is a kind of big tourist place. My efforts to rationalise still meant I was quite guilty though. In the end I went to the car park to pay for the car, and the car park fee was extortionate, and amazingly as soon as I was forced to have to shell out money to pay for the car park fee, my feelings of dissonance dissipated. It had gone completely. Again, not logical, not rational, but it was a way of getting rid of the feelings of dissonance.